Felix Fish had dreams of being remembered as the greatest dancer whose feet ever, lightly, touched the land. They had the skills to back that dream up, depending on who you asked. So the only thing standing between them and legendary status was the cost of renting the Mummers Guild Hall for an evening and promoting a show. Luckily, while Felix was pondering how to get their hands on the requisite funds for their performance, word began to spread through the small town of Kiranth that the wizard Alby had made an extraordinary discovery. He found an underground dungeon right beneath his tower. What's more, this dungeon was rumored to hold 5 ancient tomes, in which were written the deepest, darkest secrets of Kiranth's history. Businesses all over town and beyond were eager to get those tomes, and there was a scramble to hire dungeoneers to enter the dark, foreboding place and find them. Felix saw the will of Providence in all this, and approached Alby with stories of how they had traveled far and wide in exotic lands, braved ruins of all sorts, and discovered countless legendary artifacts. This was all make-believe, of course, but it sounded good, and Alby was eager to hire the world-class adventurer, offering their services at a frankly very reasonable rate. Felix thought it was win-win. They'd get the funding they needed, and Alby would get the tomes, because, with or without the embellishments to their resume, the dungeon would surely be child's play for anyone as graceful, quick-witted, and dexterous as Felix. Probably.
Hi everyone, welcome to Virtual Muse AI, the MST3K of RPGs, where I sit alone in space playing games with a creative AI chatbot.
That's me, Abby Drake. What game are we playing today?
I just downloaded a quirky TTRPG with a fancy theme. It's called Dungeoneer For Hire by a creator called Soloist Venture. I think we'll give this video a narrative intro, but thanks to the magic of video editing, I don't know anything about the character or storyline we're about to create.
That sounds awesome, Silas. What's the tone of the game? Is it more lighthearted or darker?
I'd say it's more lighthearted and a little whimsical. The concept is that a dungeon was discovered underneath a wizard's tower, and it's rumored to contain 5 tomes of secrets. People are scrambling to get a hold of these. The player character is hired to explore the dungeon and find the tomes on behalf of their employer. What sort of character do you imagine for this Dungeoneer For Hire? A rough and tumble mercenary type, or maybe something more amusing like a baker looking for a side gig or something?
I think a baker would be hilarious. Maybe they're searching for ingredients for a magical bread recipe or something. Or maybe a traveling performer trying to fund their next show. There are so many possibilities with that kind of character.
Maybe it's a dancer or acrobat who has a ridiculous confidence that their skills will help in the intense situations they're sure to encounter while dungeon delving.
That's perfect. They can swagger into the dungeon thinking their agility and charm will save the day, only to realize it's not quite enough against the darkness within.
What sort of other details do you imagine for this character? What are they like?
They sound like someone with a flair for drama and a tendency to embellish the truth. Maybe they're charming, but also incredibly self-centered. Maybe they're trying too hard to be remembered as the greatest dancer ever, rather than actually being very skilled.
That could be why they're taking this job, to fund their performance. They think if they just get the chance to shine, they'll become famous. What do you imagine this character's name is?
I think something flashy and attention-grabbing would fit their personality. Maybe something like Vivian LaRue or Felix Flynn. If I had to choose, I'd say Felix Flynn is a little more to my taste. The ring to it is nice.
Perfect. Let's tweak it to Felix Fish. That keeps the same silly alliteration, but I feel like it makes the name even weirder and funnier. How about the employer who hires Felix? The options the game gives are the wizard Alby, the mercenary Zara, and the blacksmith Gorath. Choosing our employer grants the character a certain weapon and bonuses to their stats. Alby, Zara, and Gorath give our character +1 charisma, dexterity, and strength, respectively.
I love the idea of Alby, the wizard. It fits the whimsical vibe, plus Felix can charm their way into magical mishaps. Now we should decide what skills Felix has. Maybe we can add some magic-related skills since they're working with Alby.
Yeah, and maybe they also have some skills related to their background in dance and performance.
Definitely, Felix must have skills that reflect their experience as a performer, like persuasion or deception, which would tie in nicely with their charming but perhaps untrustworthy nature.
Perfect. I can imagine Felix trying to bluff and charm their way out of tense situations.
That's totally Felix's MO.
What about these tomes everyone is after? Is it just because they're antiquities and might be valuable, or is there more to it? Maybe they contain information about lineages and factions that could influence the balance of power in the modern world somehow.
I think there's definitely more to it than just monetary value. Perhaps the tomes hold ancient knowledge or spells that could grant power to those who possess them, or reveal hidden histories that could reshape the current social structure. The rumors surrounding the dungeon suggest a deeper significance to the tomes, don't you think?
Ooh, I like the idea of powerful lost spells in these tomes, which Alby is trying to recover. Maybe he's intent on keeping the knowledge out of the wrong hands, or maybe he's after forbidden power himself. That introduces ambiguity to his motivations.
That adds a layer of complexity to Alby's character and raises questions about his true intentions. It also creates opportunities for Felix to discover the truth and potentially navigate morally gray areas.
Oh, looks like we're doing what we always do in making the story more convoluted every moment we spend on it. And the tomes are called ancient, but I'm thinking that's more colloquial than literal. I imagine them as being medieval, while the modern world is an equivalent of the 19th century. The knowledge in the tomes might be older than that, but I doubt the actual objects are. I think we have plenty story-wise, and we should start the game. We begin by placing a marker which will represent Felix on the dungeon map. We'll move the marker around the map as we explore. Shall we set the scene as Felix enters the dungeon?
Felix stands before the entrance of the dungeon, a large stone door with intricate carvings, partially hidden behind Alby's tower.
I imagine Felix is stifled by the oppressive darkness and stuffy, stale smell of the dungeon. All of this feels very real, suddenly, making them have a flicker of self-awareness about how overconfident they've been so far.
That vulnerability makes Felix more relatable. I wonder if this sudden dose of reality will affect their decision-making as they move forward into the unknown darkness. The entrance room is small, with cold stone walls and a low ceiling that makes Felix feel slightly claustrophobic. A faint glow emanates from luminescent mushrooms growing in the corners, casting eerie shadows around the room. Ahead of Felix, a corridor stretches into darkness, punctuated by the occasional torch flickering with a faint, eerie flame.
Ooh, the bioluminescent mushrooms are a nice touch. What about those torches? Does the fact that they're lit imply someone has been here recently, or does it seem like a arcane magical effect?
To Felix, it seems like the torches are magically sustained as they flicker with an otherworldly flame that casts no smoke or heat. There's no sign of recent human presence, just an eerie, perpetual glow that illuminates the corridor.
I love that. I imagine Felix timidly stalling for time, cupping a hand near one of these strange heatless torch flames, as if figuring out what's going on, then making the snap decision to boldly walk into the twilight ahead. The game provides a handy flowchart for guiding us through the core loop of how play proceeds. The first thing when entering a room is to roll 1d6 and determine the contents. The result is 4, which means this room contains a monster. Next, we, optionally, roll for the type of monster. The result is 6. That's a hobgoblin. Now we roll 1d4 on the HP table to determine the starting HP of this monster. We rolled 1. That means the starting HP is 5. Now combat can begin, with Felix acting first. How is all this unfolding narratively? What is the scene like, and what does the hobgoblin look like, etc.?
As Felix steps into the next room, the atmosphere shifts. The air grows tense, and shadows seem to dance along the walls. Suddenly, a hulking hobgoblin emerges from the darkness, its green skin glistening in the torchlight. It has a jagged scar across its face and wears mismatched armor that clinks as it moves. Felix's heart races as they prepare for combat, adrenaline surging through them. The hobgoblin snarls, brandishing a rusted sword, ready to defend its territory. Felix must decide quickly. Will they attempt to negotiate or go in swinging?
Epic. I think Felix makes the snap decision to strike at the hobgoblin, and the battle kicks off. Felix has a staff as a weapon, which hits for 1d6 plus 1 damage. I'll roll for what Felix's opening attack does.
Felix charges forward, staff at the ready, aiming a swift strike at the hobgoblin. The air seems to vibrate with tension as the two enemies clash in the dimly lit chamber. What's the result of Felix's roll? Did they land a solid hit or stumble into a messy miss?
The roll is 4, so with the plus 1 for the staff, that's enough to take the hobgoblin down. I hope this is a sign of how well everything is going to go for us moving forward, because the alternative is that we're using up all our good luck in this first encounter, and things are going to get much worse.
Wow, nice hit. Felix swings the staff with precision, connecting solidly with the hobgoblin's side. The creature lets out a surprised grunt before collapsing to the ground, defeated. The room falls silent, leaving Felix standing victorious in the dim light.
The next thing on the flowchart is to roll on the loot table. That's a 1d8 roll. The result is 6. That's either a wooden shield, which will block 3 attacks, or an arcane sword, which deals 1d8 plus 3 damage. Which of those sounds like the better option?
The arcane sword sounds awesome. That extra damage could really turn the tide in future battles. Plus, it adds a cool factor to Felix's character.
So Felix looks around, then realizes the sword in the defeated hobgoblin's hand has a faint, arcane glow to it, glimmering in the dark. They take the sword, feeling a rush of energy as they close their hand on the hilt.
The sword feels alive in Felix's hand, vibrating with energy as they grip it tightly. The arcane glow intensifies, bathing their fingers in an ethereal light. Felix senses a surge of power coursing through the blade, waiting to be unleashed.
Nice. Armed with the arcane sword, holding it forward like a torch in the darkness, Felix advances into the next room.
The door creaks open, revealing a room filled with dusty tapestries and cobweb-covered portraits hanging from the walls. A chill runs down Felix's spine as they step inside, sensing they're not alone despite the oppressive silence. A faint whisper seems to linger in the air.
Those are perfect atmospherics because the encounter I rolled for this room is an undead spirit. What is that like?
As Felix moves deeper into the room, the air grows colder, and a ghostly figure materializes from the shadows. It's a translucent spirit, its features twisted in sorrow, eyes glowing with an eerie light. It floats above the ground, flickering like a dying flame. The whispers grow louder, echoing tales of lost love and betrayal. Felix feels a mix of fear and curiosity. Will they confront this spirit or try to communicate with it?
I think Felix would try to talk their way out of this situation rather than escalate it to combat right away, don't you?
That's a great idea. Felix seems like someone who'd prefer to reason with the spirit rather than fight it.
Maybe this is Felix's chance to learn more about the history of the dungeon, or what these tomes actually contain, to infer why Alby might want them. What does Felix say to the spirit?
Felix approaches the spirit calmly, asking, "What's holding you here? Is there something specific that keeps you bound to this place?" They hope to spark a conversation that might reveal more about the dungeon's past and Alby's intentions.
We're off the flowchart here, but the game mechanics can easily support this because we can just call this a charisma check and go with it. For a charisma check, we roll 1d6, and anything above a 5 is a success. We also get +1 here because we work for Alby, and that's the bonus he gives. Oh, the roll is 3. Even +1, that's still a failure. The spirit doesn't answer Felix and rushes forward to attack.
Oh no. The spirit lunges at Felix, its wailing cry echoing through the room. Felix barely has time to react as the cold energy surrounds them.
The spirit attacks for 5 damage. That 5 is taken from Felix's total HP of 30. Shaken, Felix strikes back with the arcane sword, dealing 6 damage, reducing the spirit from 7 starting HP to only 1. It's barely remaining coherent, nearly dissipated by the arcane sword as the glowing blade passes through it.
Felix feels the surge of power from the sword as it connects, and the spirit wavers, flickering like a candle in the wind. With just a sliver of its essence left, Felix sees a chance to either finish it off or try one last attempt at communication.
The combat table doesn't feel quite right for this, so I rolled on the Dungeoneer action table and got 2, which is, they're trying to steal your ancient tomes. Felix doesn't have any tomes yet, so this can't be happening right now. It has to be an intention the spirit has. That means the spirit is going to try to manipulate Felix into getting tomes for it. It communicates with Felix, de-escalating the situation.
The spirit's voice takes on a melancholic tone, and it speaks to Felix in a barely audible whisper, saying, "Please, traveler, don't harm me. I've been stuck here for so long, searching for answers. I know you're bound to Alby, but perhaps you could acquire certain texts for me, ones hidden within the dungeon's depths. I promise they'll reveal secrets beyond your wildest dreams."
Ooh, things just took a turn. It could be that Alby knows more about all this than he's telling Felix, and his intentions aren't what they seem. What about the paintings and other dusty relics in this room?
The paintings and relics seem to hint at a rich history, suggesting that this place was once a sacred site, maybe a temple or a monastery. The artwork depicts scenes of mystical rituals and ancient knowledge, while the relics appear to be remnants of a long-forgotten civilization. It's possible that Alby's connection to this place goes deeper than Felix initially thought, and the spirit's words might be more than just a desperate plea.
What a twist. Maybe Alby intentionally built his tower over the site and concocted this story about randomly finding the place to cover his tracks and trick Dungeoneers into going after the tomes for him without asking questions.
That theory would explain why Alby was so vague about the dungeon's history and why he's so interested in those specific texts. Felix might have stumbled into something much bigger than they initially thought. What if the tomes contain knowledge that could give Alby some kind of power or advantage?
That makes sense. It fits with the idea that these books contain lost spells. Maybe Alby has been studying the ancient magic of this lost culture civilization, and now he's after more power, using Felix to get it.
The spirit might see Felix as a means to stop Alby's plans and restore balance to this sacred site. This could create an interesting dynamic where Felix is caught between two opposing forces, each trying to manipulate them for their own purposes.
Well, we've done it again. We've turned a very simple, straightforward story into something full of lost histories and hidden layers of intrigue. Let's use this revelation as a cliffhanger to end session 1 and pick it up from here next time.
Sounds like a solid plan. Ending on a cliffhanger will definitely keep things interesting for next session. I'm excited to see where Felix's journey takes them next, caught between Alby's mysterious goals and the spirit's opposing agenda. If you're still watching, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel.